This is Gemara Avodah Zarah Daf Ayin Gimel, and we'd like all the learning to be an incredible Schosalias Nishama for Esther Rייזל Basar מאיר, sponsored by her son B'siyata Dishmaya, the incredible Koyach HaTorah. She continuously raise up her neshama to an incredible place in Gan Eden Shel Mailos. We pulled up a little bit short. It's on Nine Beis and Beis. We're about 15 lines on the bottom, where the first one in line is Ahu. And the Gemara starts with a story. Amar lehu Rav Chisda lahanu savita. Rav Chisda said to certain Jewish wine sellers, Ki kalitu chamra la'akum, when you measure wine for the goyim, when you pour it into the goyim's kelim, and of course the issue being that the goyim's kelim might have some residue, might have some remnants of yayin nesech. Katve katufi, pour it in, as we saw previously, little spurts, not a direct continuous stream. Inami nafsi nafusi, or fling in from afar, meaning never give a continuous stream of wine, because if not, the wine from the goyish vessel, the yayin nesech, is going to travel back and cause your wine to be aser. Amru Rava lahanu shefuchoi. So Rava similarly said to the Jewish wine pourers, Ki shavchitu chamra, when you pour wine, lo likarev akom nasiya badayu. Don't allow the guy to help you. Dilma mishtalitu shaditu le'ala, because you might forget, and the barrel might be fully being held by the guy. The kasi mekaycha, it'll be considered that the guy is holding it and it's his kayak, and therefore va'aser, and it'll aser up all the wine. Another story, who covered the asik chamra begishta, ubas gishta. There was a person who siphoned wine with a tube and a secondary tube. The guy came and put his hand at the end of the tube as the wine was coming out. So Rava said, unfortunately, all the wine now is aser. What's the reason you're saying everything is aser? Tell me, because the stream connecting it. So we're going back and we have a raya that needs a chibur, that the stream connecting will aser. Says the Gemara, no, shani asan de kule chamra agishta bas gishta garer. It's not just a nita chibur, is that it's all resting and it's all drawn straight through there. Therefore, by the guy holding it, he's essentially putting and supporting all the wine, and it's not just a level of nitzuk, a level of the flow connecting it. Amar Mar Zutra, 4 lines in the bottom, B'Eider Rav Nachman. Kanishkinin shari. Says Mar Zutra, if a yid and a guy drink together from a kanishkinin, which is a type of vessel that has different tubes coming out of it, you could drink simultaneously. Says Mar Zutra, B'Eider Rav Nachman, that is permitted. If the yid stops drinking first, then it will not be allowed, because when the guy stops, the wine that touched the guy's straw will now be touched by the wine that's touching the yid's straw, and that will create a matziv of yayin nesech. Says the Gemara, he allowed them to drink from this vessel called this kanishkanain. As we turn over to not that he allowed someone else, but he himself did it. Of course, we have to, figure out the exact particulars of exactly how this vessel works. And we continue with the new Mishnah. Says the Mishnah, Yayin Nesech Aser. A blanket statement, a din that we know so well. But now the Mishnah explains it's Aser and V'Iser B'Cholshu. It's Aser B'Hana, and it can answer anything else up, even with a kolshu, even one little bit. Says the Mishnah, Yayin b'yayin u'mayin b'yayin b'kolshu. Similarly, if wine mixes wine or water mixed with water, then it will answer b'kolshu. But yayin b'mayim u'mayim b'yayin. Let's say water mixes with wine or wine mixes with water, then it's b'noisin tam. Ze'aklal. Min b'minoi b'mashu. If you're mixing with the item itself, then it answers up b'mashu. But if shaloi b'minoi, then it only answers up b'noisin tam if it gives noisin tam. So over here, this really has nothing to do with yayin nesech. This has to do with the regular dinim of min b'minai, as we'll see more on Amid base. Says the Gemara. Ki asar Rav Dimi Amar Rav Yechon Amar Yaines Lebechavas Labar. If you look kol hayom kula, you're pouring wine the entire day. Rishon batel. Every drop that falls in, every drop of the Yaines that falls in is batel, and therefore everything is going to be mutter. You're pouring Yaines into a large cistern of wine. Every drop that falls in, a concept that we know by mikvah, etc. As the drops fall in, it is batel to the larger quantity on the bottom. Says the Gemara Tanan, Yain Ezach Aser Vaiser B'Chol Shu. So I don't understand. Mishnah said B'Chol Shu. My love, the Kanafel, Isura, Legoya Tira. The Isser is falling into the heter. We see B'Chol Shu is Aser. So why are you telling me Kama Batal? Says the Gemara, no. Loi, the Kanafel Tira, Legoya Isura. Then the heter is going to be subsumed by the Isser. And even a Kol Shu of Isser, a drop of Isser on the bottom, will make the heter us. Tashima, another kashan Rav Dimi. Yain b'mayim min ha'isim tam, said the Mishnah. So explains the Gemara, my love. T'kanafal chamra di isur l'mayde teira. The Mishnah seemingly is referring to that Isser fell into heter, and we see it's been ha'isim tam. So again, how can you tell me kama batal kolayam kulay? Says Gemara, loy t'kanafal chamra di teira l'maya di isura. But says Gemara, wait, umidireisha b'mayid di isura. Saving on my this rest be the same case. So Rav Dimi. So finally, Rav Dimi has to really respond. Kulamas Nisa, and he explains the whole Mishnah we have to explain is a teir legoy surah. V'reish lekanafel chamra de teira lemayit yisura. Save the kanafel mayit de teira lechamra di yisura. But they're all going to be talking about the heter falls into the isser and not fakert, as Rav Dimi holds his own, that when it is the opposite, when it's the Isser falling in the heter, then we would say, kama batal. Says the Gemara, another way of learning, if someone is pouring yayin nesach from a small pitcher into a bar, rishain batal. Vidavka, but in this lashon, it's not stam pouring it in. It's vidavka tzir kot in a small pitcher. Why? Nafish amudei. Because if it's a silsal katan, then nafish amudei, the spout is not large. But if you'd be pouring of a chafiz, if you'd be pouring for a barrel to nafish amudei, loy, then this kula of kama batal would not apply. Rav Yitzchak is coming along after Rav Dimi, and he's limiting and minimizing the din, and he's saying that it's only going to be if it's poured in small quantities. But if it's poured from a large container, then we're going to view not that it goes in kama, but it goes in as one gush, and then it would indeed aser. Says the Gemara, about 15 lines from the bottom. The first one line is ki. Ki asa Ravin Amar Rav Yochanan, a third way of learning. Yaines shnafel a bar, v'nafel sham kitin shamayim. Yaines falls into a bar, and then a flask of water falls in. Yaines a heter kilo einoi. We view the heter, the wine, as like it's not here. Vashar mai vashar, and whatever left of the wine, the aser wine, mayim rabin alav. The water overwhelms it. So you're allowed to compartmentalize this cistern into ki'ilu. There's three different entities. There's mutter wine, aser wine, and water, and thereby allow the water to be mevatel the iser. Says the Gemara, Ki Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda Amar Rav Yochanan lo yishanu el shenafel kitin shel mayim techila. This din is only where the kitin of water, the flask of water, falls in first. If the water did not fall in first, then, and rather the wine fell in the wine, so now you have two like entities, and then of course, matzah min esminai, the two things find each other, v'neir, and reawakens the isser, and then we will not have this unique type of bittul. If the yayin nesach mixes with the regular wine, then right away it's going to be asering bi kol shehu, and it will not allow the water to subsequently come along and be mevatel it. Some learn this din On our Mishnah, what did the Mishnah say? Yainam Kolshu Amar Shmuel Yudam Rav Yechon Loishan. That's only Elish Nafel Sham Kita Shal Mayim. Avol Nasha Kita Shal Mayim. Then Roinas Ahat Kiluino Bashar Mayim Rabin Alav Umevatel in Isai, and it will be Mevatel it. Says the Gemara, Maika Bain Lidimasni La Amasnisan Bain Limasni La Adim Ravin. What is the chilik? They both seemingly are saying the exact same case. Man Demasni La Masnisan Loy Ba'it Chila. The one who learned the din on the Mishnah does not require that the water falls in first. Irregardless whether the water is there first or not, you'll have a din of bittul. But man demasla aderavin, but the one who learned the din on Ravin, then what? Ba'it chila, then needs the water to fall there first, or else he would hold matzah min esminoi v'chayzer v'neir. Itmar, says the Gemara, Yayin nesach shnafel lebar v'nafel shal kita shamayim. Yayin nesach falls into wine, and then what happens? Water falls there subsequently. As we turn over to Ayin Gimel Amud Beis, teaches the Gemara, Amar Chizkiah, says Chizkiah, Higdilu be'isr, aser. Higdilu be'heter, mutter. So explains Chizkiah, what's going to happen in this case of the wines and the water that are all mixing together in the bar. If the wine and the water got greater through the Isser wine, then meaning what? Meaning you had kosher wine, you had water, and then you had Isser wine, then it's all Asr. But Igdilu beheter. But if the opposite, if you had the Isser wine, and then you had the water, and then afterwards you had the heter wine that came in, then it's going to be mutter. Why? Because then the water is already mevatel the yayin nesach, and now that the heter wine came in, it will be mutter. Says the Gemara, Amar lei. Excuse me, that's the first shita. But Rav Yechon Amar, no. I feel like dilu be'isr mutter. Even in the first case, in which the wines mix first, and it's a dilu be'isr, that, excuse me, even in Igdilu be'isr, even though the Isser wine came in last, still it will be mutter. So Amar Rav Zera, Rav Yechanan, what's this machlokes? This sounds like the machlokes we just had in the bottom of Amar Aleph. But if you look to the Razav Ravin Kamiflagi, this is that machlokes. Titanan is Arshal Chulin V'Shal Shuma. Well, excuse me, not the same machlokes, but a similar machlokes to that which we just had. Says the Gemara, Titanan, Sarshal Chulin V'Shal Shuma Shavlo Teicha Isa. Lo b'zuk de lechames, lo b'zuk de lechames. V'nitztarfu, but together they could be v'chamsu. Rav Lezer Omer, ach achroin. We go after the last one. Aniba. Says Rav Lezer, we go after the last one. Bein shenafel iser b'tchila ubein b'soif. Eino yasa ashba kedela she'echmetz, unless there's enough to cause it to become chametz on its own. So says the Gemara, l'chayra, that's going to be the machlokes. That'll be shita Rav Lezer. We have shita the Rabbanan. V'tizbra. No, I just skipped. One more time. Let's read it again. Rav Lezer Omer ach achron aiba. Said Rav Lezer, it goes basar, the last one. Whereas Rav Chachamim say no, it doesn't make a difference. So that's going to be this machlokes Chizkiah and Rav Yechanan. Says the Gemara, really? V'tizbra v'amer Abaya loishan ala shekadam v'silik es iser. How could this be? Abaya learned that's only if you remove the iser. Avaloi kadam v'silik es iser. It's going to be aser. So how could we say it's the same machlokes? Chizkiah Amar Kiman. So Chizkiah doesn't like anyone. Elahacha. So what must be going on over here between Chizkiah and Rav Yechanan? What's their machlokes? It's not the machlokes between Rav Lezer and the Chachamim, but rather b'ra'inka miflagi. The machlokes must be whether we are right and whether we view the heter wine as if it's not there or not. The Chizkiah lastly right and the Rav Yechanan islay. They're going to be arguing about a different machlokes entirely. Says the Gemara, if that's the machlokes, whether we say right and whether we're allowed to view as if the Isser is not going to be there at all or not. Well, the Rav Yechanan right, but does Rav Yechanan really hold that? Rav Asi asked this kasha to Rav Yechanan. Shnei kaises echashal kulim v'echashal chuma. Umozgan v'yirvan zebazem mau v'loi bashalei. And he didn't answer him. And if Rav Yechanan held to this yisaid of Ryan, he should have answered him. Explains the Gemara, you're right. Meikar loy pashalei, but let's leif pashalei at the end. That's Rav Yechon held, and therefore there's no kasha at all. And it's marnami Rav Yechon Rav Asi Rav Yechon because Chachulim v'Shal Shuma must be different than. Guess what? Mamish, like we just said, right? So it's going to come out. That's going to be the machlekes of Lazar, Chizkin of Yechon, excuse me, whether we say this Yisaid of Rayin or not. Continues the Gemara, quoting the next part of the Mishnah. Really, the end of the Mishnah, which when we read, we learned that it came a little bit at odds. So what's going on in the Mishnah? The Mishnah concluded, Zaklal, min b'mineh mashal, shlo b'mineh b'naisin tam. Rav Ushvol dermatavai kol yisurin Shabbat Torah b'minon b'mashu. Says Rav Shmuel, all yisurim, when they mix with its min, it asters up with a dot. Shlo b'mineh b'naisin tam. Zaklal asuye mahi. So it says the Gemara when the Mishnah comes along and says Zaklal, what's it coming to include? Lasuye kol yisurin Shabbat Torah. Seemingly, it's coming to include all Yisurim in the Torah, like Rav and Shmuel. Rav Yechon and Reish Lakish argue, and they say, no, everything a normal Isser is Naisein Tam. Chutz, Mitevel v'yayin nesech. Those two, b'minan are b'mashiv, shabina b'naisein tam. V'zeh klal asuyei mai. It's coming to in the Mishnah to include Tevel. So we have a machlekes, Rav Yechon and Reish Lakish, Rav and Shmuel. What's the last case of the Mishnah going to be talking about? So in classical sense, the Gemara says, I'll bring you rayas to both. Tani kavased Rav Shmuel, Tani kavased Rav Yechon and Reish Lakish. We've explicit braysos to both. Tani kavased Rav Shmuel, Zokta brayso, Klisu Shabbat Mina Mashiv Shalmina B'naisin Tan. Tani kavased Rav Yechon and Reish Lakish, Klisu Shabbat Mina Mishla B'minan. B'naisin Tan chutz b'tavel v'yayin nesech v'minan b'mashiv Shalmina B'naisin Tan. So says the Gemara, rayos to both. And we conclude with a kasha. Yayin Nesach, that's been our ganze Mesechta. We know the reason why it asers b'mashu, because that is the Chomra. But El Tevel, my Taimo, what is the reason by Tevel? That it's going to be more a Chomra than anything else, according to Rav Yechon Reish Lakish. Explains the Gemara, that what? The Amr Shmuel. Chita achas b'iteres is a kri. What's the din of Tevel? The din of Truma is that one Chita, midaraisa, one store comes along and patters up the whole pile. And just like beheter were very makel, that one chita kapat of the whole kri, so too be'isr we're going to be very machmer on tevel, that a mashu will aser up anything, just like ayin esech. Pick it up for the next Mishnah. B'siyata d'ishmai.